At the risk of being crude, Angela looked as if she'd been yanked through a knothole. Her eyes swam in pink puffs of flesh. Tears streaked her cheeks. A smudge marred her jaw. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes filthy, torn, blood-spattered, and burned in spots. Yes, burned. She was running like she'd never run before. Uphill through the woods, out of breath, aching in every muscle, running on her last ounce of strength. She hadn't a step left in her. Still, she ran on, gasping, shooting terrified glances into the darkness behind. As she ran, she failed to hear any of the normal sounds of night. No nocturnal animals scampering in the brush, no creatures slithering in the grass, nothing flitting past on night wings, not even crickets, nothing but her gasps, her footfalls, and the unearthly sounds of the thing chasing her. The leaves crunched and the branches snapped to its uneven step as it, whatever it was, pounded the path behind. Its occluded breath, growing louder, drawing nearer, threatened Angela like an opening theme from a horror flick. Suite for string orchestra, tubular bells, Malcolm is dead, music to scream by, music to die by. Its throaty panting gave way to a guttural howl. The thing was hot on her heels and closing. All seemed lost when the dawn arrived. Angela experienced a rush of hope as brilliant rays of orange, white, and gold burst through the trees. But that hope was fleeting. The cavalry had not arrived in time. It wasn't the light of salvation. Rather, it was the dawn of the dead. It cast long shadows through the woods, while at the same time ominously lighting a clearing ahead, like a spotlight on a stage. Lights up. She was afraid. On the final act in the theater of blood. Angela had no choice. She left the path, crossed the clearing in 8 panicked strides, then, gasping in terror and exhaustion, pulled up with no more room to run. No! She caught her balance at the brink of a sheer rock cliff. She swallowed hard and gaped over the edge, taking in the 100-foot drop to a surging river below. Her mind reeled, her stomach rolled. She took an involuntary step back. Her cognitive senses took an instant to catch up. She was trapped. She turned to stare back across the clearing to the woods on the downhill side. She dropped her arms to her sides, flexed her fists, and fought to master her breathing. Was she afraid? Yes. Still, if it was the end, she decided then and there, let it come. She was Angela Roscoic, wasn't she? Her old man's kid? She'd meet this, like she met every challenge in life, head on. The morning breeze chilled, blew through her hair and torn clothes, brushed her beads of sweat, turning her skin to goose flesh and sending a shudder through her small athletic frame. Behind her, Angela heard the water surging below. At the timberline before her, she heard the snap of twigs and crunch of leaves, heralding the arrival of her pursuer. The thing broke through the trees. Angela screamed and bolted upright in bed, just like the heroines did in the old horror movies she loved so much. She eyed her surroundings in the gloom and finally recognized them. Her own bed, in her own room, in her own apartment. Angela caught her breath. It had only been a nightmare. The nightmare, again. For the 4th night in a row. 4 times the growling thing had chased her through the woods and to the brink. 4 times she'd found herself trapped and facing death. 4 times she'd screamed herself awake. She'd been a mess in the dream, and no doubt looked worse now it had passed. Angela sat drenched, her too big flannel nightshirt clinging with sweat, her hair matted, her breath coming in pants, and a rivulet of saliva escaping the side of her mouth. Ugh, pretty. She wiped her chin with her shirt sleeve and collapsed back on the damp pillow.